Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For many people, the idea of owning their home is now simply a fantasy. Home ownership rates continue to drop. As buying a house becomes less and less affordable, more and more people are renting in New South Wales than ever before and for longer. Nearly 40% of households in New South Wales are now renters, and more people than ever before will be lifelong renters. For many people, renting is the only option. There are more children now living in rental accommodation than ever before. At the last census, there was a 41.2% of families with dependent children in New South Wales renting, and 20% of people on the aged pension in New South Wales now rent. One of the biggest issues for renters in New South Wales is the lack of stability. When a tenant signs a lease, it is usually for just 6 or 12 months. At the end of this lease, a landlord can tell the tenant that they have to move out of their home without providing any reason for doing so, even if the tenant has met their responsibilities and paid rent on time. Tenants on an ongoing periodic agreement face even more insecurity. They can be asked to move out of a property with just 90 days' notice at any time the landlord chooses to do so, and again, without the landlord having to give a reason why. These no-grounds evictions are not common practice around the world. In fact, Choice has noted that Australia is one of the few OECD countries that allows for no-grounds evictions. Tenancy laws in other countries offer long-term stability. Renters are able to set up a home, put down their roots, and feel secure about their housing situation. Unfortunately, this isn't the case for people like Ruby, a renter who lives in constant fear of getting a termination notice. She explained to us, "We have a kid starting school next year, and trying to find a place in the same area would be very stressful. I only ask for repairs if it is something we cannot live with, because I simply do not want to draw attention to ourselves. It's not like this everywhere. When we lived in San Francisco, landlords couldn't evict you for no reason. It made life far less stressful." And Ben, a new parent and a renter, had just moved into a rental property a couple of months before his new baby was born. He was only given a 6-month lease, and this was not renewed, and he had to find a new place to live. The problem for people like Ben is that they continue to face this insecurity every time they move into a rental property. Almost a third of the time that people living in Australia's private rental sector move, it is because they are forced to, rather than because they made a choice. New South Wales rental laws are currently under review, and we are encouraged to see that the Minister is looking at ways to incentivise longer leases, and we welcome any reform that would allow renters to stay in their homes for longer. However, in line with this, we cannot understand why there isn't a commitment to stop no-grounds evictions. The Tenants Union has been calling for this for years, and the Greens support this reform. We're campaigning for renters' rights, and we will continue to do so. As long as no-grounds terminations are allowed to remain in New South Wales laws, landlords will have the upper hand in any dispute. The possibility of a no-grounds eviction can act as an unspoken threat. Sarah has told us that she's been evicted with no grounds twice, simply for requesting for things to be fixed, and then finding, when she took those complaints to the tribunal, that actually, even though she was not at fault, she was then evicted from her property. A dodgy landlord who doesn't want to spend money on essential repairs is using this as a way out and to avoid maintenance, and can simply put those repairs off until the lease expires and kick the tenant out who is making these requests, get a new one in, and start the stonewalling all over again. Of the 200 renters who responded to a recent survey conducted by our office, 60% of them said that they had not asked for repairs simply because of the concern that it might put their tenancy at risk. Obviously, we recognise it is reasonable for a landlord to ask a tenant to move out of the property in certain circumstances, because they want to move in, because they have a family member that wants to move in. Given this, and given that the Act could provide for these circumstances, it is unclear why we need to retain this no-grounds evictions clause. Allowing landlords to throw out tenants of a property with no good reason, with no grounds, comes at a great cost to our community and is almost impossible for anybody to justify. Living from year to year with no stability creates a great deal of stress for families, for the elderly, and for people who rely on support networks in their community. But renters do not bear the cost of this alone. Our communities are compromised because renters are not able to fully establish themselves in their local neighbourhoods. Our laws need to be updated to reflect the new normal that is renting. In many global cities, renting laws give tenants long-term security and help keep tenants and rents affordable. Our laws need to reflect the reality of renters in our community and provide stability and security.